very far from Western North Carolina. Which I say that because today I was scrolling around on Facebook and I noticed how many people, let's just go ahead and cut to the chase. How many people are trying to use a tragedy to their own benefit? So there's this one page, this guy's called Fathering Autism. And he had this like screenshot and it said, it's terrible here. And it was like himself in his yard. And then I was like, oh gosh, his poor house has gotten torn up. It was leaves in his pool at his second home in Blowing Rock. I would just like to tell people out there, if you have a second home in Blowing Rock and you are not there, you are not allowed to talk because no one wants to hear about it. Just FYI. And you know, it's interesting. I feel like I'm like on an island. I'm like, where are all these people? There's so many people that are like, you're making this political. And I'm like, okay, am I the only person that hasn't fallen for Mark Robinson carrying around a case of water? Like this hurricane, I would argue for Mark Robinson is the best thing that's ever happened to him. A week ago, he was on CNN calling himself mini soldier on the nude Africa porn site. And today he's like, wee! You love Fathering Autism. You know, I don't, to be honest. I think they really take their daughter's dignity away. They had a video of her on the toilet trying to talk about how they handle her menstrual cycle. And I felt like that was very inappropriate, but call me crazy. So anyway, so Mark Robinson is, you know, all over the place. And there's this real push of no one in North Carolina is doing anything. No one is, the governor's lazy. Where's the National Guard? Joe Biden has screwed everything up. You know, this is awful. And Mark Robinson, who people are saying isn't making things political, is talking about, oh, look at the governor from Florida trying to help us. It's nuts. Does anybody truly believe that this is not political? It's political. You might not want it to be political, but it is political. And I have no problem calling it political because it is. And it doesn't help anybody not to. So let's look at what's happening in North Carolina. Because when I saw those musings, we have no help, nobody's helping, I thought, what the hell is happening? I better go check. So you know what I did? I went and looked at websites for like the North Carolina Department of DOT, North Carolina National Guard. All these people have Facebook pages, so you can see exactly what they're doing. And I will tell you, I didn't find one organization that said, we're not allowed to help. If the National Guard of North Carolina had said, Governor Cooper does not want us to help, then I would be on here telling you Governor Cooper has lost his mind. But I didn't say that because it's not true. So let's talk about what's happening in the mountains. North Carolina DOT, 1,500 employees, 1,500 trucks, 1,000 chainsaws, 8,000 barricades and signs. On Saturday, 800 soldiers and airmen from the National Guard, 300 vehicles and aircraft, hoist and emergency aviation assets, high water response vehicles. As of Sunday morning, the North Carolina National Guard had conducted 57 individual air missions and moved 200,000 pounds of food. No, Amy, that is what I saw. So, I mean, you do a Google search, Amy, Fathering Autism in the bathroom, and you'll see it. So sorry. It's a distraction. Okay. 100,000 pounds of FEMA supplies were delivered to the Asheville airport on Tuesday. 48 pallets of water, meals, life-saving supplies. Personnel and air assets from Connecticut, Maryland, Ohio, Florida, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Alabama. A Chinook brought in 75 first responders from Maryland. 20 people, 6 dogs. Rescued, transported tens of thousands of pounds of food and water. So this is truth, and what you're reading is fake. It's very important. I don't care who you voted for or who you like, but there is no reason to lie. There is just no reason to lie. The North Carolina State Highway Patrol, 2 helicopters actively engaged. Yesterday, the North Carolina National Guard, 500 soldiers and airmen. They completed 16 air missions, resulted in the rescue of 119 citizens and 11 pets. Airlifted multiple people, including an infant in need of medical assistance. Largest single mission was 41 people in Buncombe County, which is north of Asheville. There is help. And so I want you to stop for a minute, and I want you to think about this. Mark Robinson is saying there's no help. I don't know if you know this, but last week, Mark Robinson was the only person, get ready, to miss a vote when Roy Cooper requested to declare a state of emergency ahead of Hurricane Helene. He missed the vote. And do you know why? He said it, quote, didn't matter. So tell me that it's not political that Mark Robinson missed the vote. His only job is lieutenant governor. I mean, let's be honest. I could be lieutenant governor. Where are you getting your statistics? Well, Kathy, I'll tell you, I'm getting my statistics from the organizations like the North Carolina National Guard and the North Carolina Department of Transportation and the North Carolina Highway Patrol and FEMA. If you go on their websites, they tell you what they're doing. I am looking at photographs of giant airplanes unloading things. This is not fake news. And it worries me that people are so brainwashed that they think he's a good choice. It's nuts. It's nuts. You all are smart enough to not just believe things because they're shoved in your throat. So last Tuesday, September 24th, Cooper sent the request to Robinson and the other members of the Council of State, 10 statewide elected officials. Can you please vote so we can declare a state of emergency? Robinson was the only one that didn't show up. I don't even need to cover why here. Why? Here's the bottom line. The vote was going to pass with or without my vote. So it was absolutely inconsequential me voting. It didn't matter. What did matter was this. When the storm was brewing and raging, our governor wasn't even in the state. He was in New York at a fundraiser. Cooper was not in New York. He had gone to New York to attend a fundraiser, did not attend the fundraiser, left to go home, and was back home last Wednesday afternoon. Do you want a governor that doesn't care enough to vote? Because I don't. Do you want a governor that spends time on a porn site called Nude Africa and talks about how he loves golden showers with his sister-in-law? I don't. Robinson has posted about meeting people affected by the storm, but also criticized the state and federal response because he's making this political, saying that Joe Biden and the federal government failed to act. A representative for the state of North Carolina said an online disinformation campaign by Lieutenant Governor during an unprecedented crisis is unhelpful, causes confusion in areas with limited communications, and puts lives at risk. State, federal, and local partners are leading a massive, coordinated response to a catastrophic storm. The governor declared a state of emergency well before the storm hit, and there have been public briefings from the Emergency Operations Center since last week. Yesterday, President Biden announced that 1,000 more National Guardmen are being deployed to help. There are already 4,800 National Guard troops here. And then Robinson says this: Florida is going to rebuild the roads in North Carolina. How does that make the people at the North Carolina Department of Transportation that have 15, all their employees are in the mountains, 1,000 vehicles? And Mark Robinson, their lieutenant governor, says, well, they're not doing anything. Nobody even wants to watch this because it's annoying. And it's mainly annoying to people who've gotten in their head that Mark Robinson is the second coming of Christ. And they've realized he's nothing but a porn star person who needs a place to live. Director of the State Employees Association of North Carolina, Artis Watkins, said the lieutenant governor's comments were desperate and despicable. DOT, North Carolina DOT, not getting recognition for having planned for this, been there the whole time. They're clearing debris, they're finding bodies. The lieutenant governor has the goal of making it look like the state is doing nothing, that state leaders aren't putting things in place, that leaders aren't communicating to their employees, getting the job done. That's where we're not going to have it. It seems to me the lieutenant governor had one job prior to this disaster, and the only thing was to go and vote to get disaster relief. The one thing he could do, he didn't do, because he wants to be the boss of all the cabinet agencies, but yet he disrespects every state employee. So my husband and I were talking about this last night, and he thinks I'm being silly because he said, no one is voting for Mark Robinson. He's a nut. No one is voting for him. And I was like, I disagree with you. I see what people say online. He is on Facebook more than I am. And I don't know if it's because he's decided when he doesn't get elected governor, like it's a good way for him to earn a living. It could be. Real leaders aren't living on Facebook. Mark Robinson said this: I can guarantee you somebody out there after all this over is going to look at me and say, you know, you were a hero for what you did. I can guarantee you someone is going to say that, whether it's somebody I love, a constituent, no matter what it is. You mean who it is? I can tell you this, to quote a soldier from World War II, here in North Carolina, I serve in a state full of heroes. What? And then, well, I'm just being even more unpopular. Let's talk about Michelle Morrow, who wants to be your state superintendent. So I have a good friend in Raleigh, And I said, I need you to go around Raleigh and I need you to count up Michelle Morrow signs. So today she reported and she said, I've found 3 total so far. And one of the signs, very wealthy neighborhood, and I looked up the address. And I was like, this person is on the board of a very elite private school in Raleigh. So you have a person who has a sign for Michelle Morrow in their yard, and they lead a private school. I mean, I feel like I'm nuts. So Michelle Morrow puts up today, she puts up a Facebook post, and she says this. She says, Wake County schools have closed early because there's no frickin' air conditioning. And when I'm state superintendent, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make sure that there is a audit to look at where Wake County Public Schools is wasting their money. I'm going to have an audit. This will make you drink. Michelle Morrow, if you're watching this, the fact that you don't know that school systems' budgets are public is a real worry. You don't need an audit to look at the budget. This is not like your family or Mark Robinson, see where his money's going. I know where the guy that worked at the porn shop said it was going. This is public information. I'm losing my mind. Anyway, carry on. Carry on, people. Please use your brains.